that's Wisconsin, you know, and I have Medicare and medical assistance, because I quit my job. And I know it's good to have insurance, but they don't wanna cover anything in Wisconsin anymore.
You gotta be old and have Medicare.
I am old and I have Medicare, I'm
And they
62.
didn't cover?
It covered the test, but it will not qualify me, even though my doctor said now you're qualified for insurance. They ran it through 2 different infusion services, and they said, no, you don't qualify. And I have Medicare and I have medical assistance. So is that kind of weird?
Well, I will say that Dr. Isom, when you pay cash in her office, she cuts you a good deal. So you can talk to her about that, but if this is all kind of ringing home to you, like something that you want to consider, you know, she does take into account cash payers, so back to you.
Sorry.
Thank you for
But the
bringing
eye
that
spot
up.
is the most sensitive one.
So it's generally accepted.
Well, it's a good one. I'll just say, a good one. Right.
Let's do a quick run through about the upper cervical technique, and then we'll get on to the self-help techniques. Body exam, neurological exam, orthopedic exam, more orthopedic exam. The x-ray is a specialized type of x-ray. There are some situations where if we just need x-rays of other areas of the spine, we can arrange it through the person's health care. There's a couple of techniques specific views that are required to do right in the office. Then we use the information from the x-rays to gather information about the spine. There's a specialized analysis that tells us how to make the adjustment very specifically. This tells how, if the upper cervical area is out of alignment, pain's pathways, it can cause pain really in any part of the body. This is my favorite illustration. This shows what the upper cervical spine looks like when it's in alignment. This shows what it looks like when it's out of alignment. And in this technique, we do one x-ray after an adjustment to calculate the exact percentage of correction that's made with the adjustment so that we can further refine the angle of the adjustment. You know, you look at this one and you can say, you know, that person doesn't probably feel quite right. Maybe their balance feels a little off. You can just tell that things aren't right. And I have a saying, if your neck isn't right, the world isn't right. Controls all functions of the body.
Is it obvious to pick up that the neck is not right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. We'll cover when should you see a chiropractor. I think we've, in the upper cervical, as well as other parts of the spine, that adjustment can be done either by hand or by instrument. Then check after the adjustment to make sure, or to find out if the adjustment was successful in reducing the nerve pressure. Just one time, a couple of spot x-ray views are done after the adjustment. Part of the treatment plan includes re-evaluation to measure how things are changing in the spine. And that's a question that I hadn't covered yet. When should you see a chiropractor? And I find that that's quite a major deficiency in our profession. We have not taught people the answer to that question. The dentists have done a very good job. Everyone knows that twice a year you should see a dentist. From a medical point of view, we know that there are various types of screening tests that we should have from time to time, but chiropractors have not taught the public, when should you see a chiropractor? I mean, people want to do the right thing. We need to educate people. So the first chiropractic visit should be as soon after birth as possible. We encourage people to stop on their way home from the hospital. 1 out of 10 babies will be subluxated during the birth process. So the 9 out of 10 that are fine, that's well and good. That 1 out of 10 should be corrected as soon as possible. Children and babies who are subluxated will have different symptoms than adults. They'll have they might have recurring ear infections, they might have upset stomach, they might have constipation, they might be irritable. It just manifests differently with kids than with adults. In our office and in a lot of offices, we do screenings for babies and children at no charge. If they're fine, well and good. We know they're fine. If they need some correction, usually it takes just a couple of visits to get them back into alignment. As an adult, as I mentioned, about 50% of adults are subluxated at any given time. The most common cause is an accident or injury. And sometimes it's something that you wouldn't necessarily think was significant. A car accident is a common cause. When a person is in a car accident, you have to multiply the speed times the weight of the vehicle that caused the jolt. I tell people, they say, well, they were hit someone was going 35 miles an hour, didn't seem like much of a jolt. And I said, well, you have to take the 35 miles an hour times the 3,000 pounds that the vehicle weighed to understand the effect on the body, because if a bicycle ran into you going 35 miles an hour, which is hard to accomplish in a bicycle, you really wouldn't feel much, but so that's a consideration. So for adults, if there's been an accident or injury, or if you have some health issue that you don't know exactly what it's from, where it's come from, that a lot of people say, well, my first stop is at the chiropractor's, and then the chiropractor will tell me if I need an adjustment. If I don't, well, then I check that out. If I do, well, then sometimes I'll clear up whatever I have. If I need to see a physician, my chiropractor and I will discuss that. I do encourage people to consider having screenings once yearly. As Alicia said, sometimes there can be things that you wouldn't guess would be related to the nerve system that might have a nerve system component. So to answer your question, how do you know if you're subluxated? You don't. There isn't a red flashing light that goes off that says you're out of alignment. I wish there were, because if we all knew, then we would could have it corrected right away, and it's so much easier to fix than if the spine has been out of alignment for years and decades. Most chiropractic offices will do a no-charge consultation and screening just to find out if you're in or out of alignment, and that way you know which category you're in. And I feel as a practitioner, it's my job to help people figure out what's going to be the best thing for them. If someone comes in and they're having symptoms and they're not out of alignment, well, then I try to help them figure out what else might be more useful, what's going to help them the most. So let's get on to the self-help techniques. That's my favorite favorite topic. And we're going to do some interactive things. So sitting, something I'd like to have you each do is cross your right leg over your left. Knee over knee. And then do the opposite. Cross your left leg over your right. And does one way feel more comfortable than the other?
Yeah.
And so now I'll go back to what we've done before. It's an illustration that one of the things we're taught in chiropractic college is that anything that's one-sided will tend to be stressful to the spine. So because crossing our legs knee over knee is usually more comfortable going one way than the other, it's encouraged that we avoid that position. It's okay to do ankle over ankle, as long as we don't always do it the same way. And even ankle over knee is okay, because again, it should be both ways. But the knee over knee does, do that once again, do one way, whichever way you want. It actually does twist the pelvis a bit, and so it's typically a one-sided stress. So you can go back to whatever your most comfortable position is. Sitting, if you're sitting and relaxing at home and you have this nice cushy couch, I find that it's really helpful to put a pillow behind your back. And have any of you tried that? Does it feel comfortable to you? One of the things that they really emphasize in chiropractic college is the neutral position of the spine. And the neutral position of the spine is the position that we're in when we're standing and looking straight ahead. And if we think of a picture of the spine from the side, it has three natural curves. It curves a little bit outward through the neck, a little bit forward through the neck, a little bit outward through the shoulders, and a little bit forward in the lower back. So it's like a slight S contour. When those contours are present, that's the position of strength in the spine. When those contours are reversed, such as looking down and or bending at the waist, I mean, you can just look at me like this and say, your muscles are going to get tired really quickly. So when I sit, this curve reverses, so I want to consciously restore it, and I'm noticing everyone here is sitting in really excellent posture. So congratulations, you've obviously been paying attention to this. So if you're in a soft couch that kind of keeps you more like this, it can be helpful to put a small pillow behind your back to keep you in the neutral position. Driving, I bring this up because I'm remembering a person who was so afraid of getting hit by the airbag that she had her seat way back, so she had to, really, she could barely reach the steering wheel and barely reach the accelerator. And I had to think about that, and I thought of the statistical likelihood of being hit by the airbag. I mean, has anyone had their airbag go off?
Yes.
So,
It injured me, but the airbag caused more problems when I had an accident.
right, so maybe once in a lifetime you might get hit by your airbag,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's worth being in this position all of your life when you're driving. So I think it's just good to be aware of having your seat close enough so that your arms are comfortable and
Yeah.
you're not reaching and stretching. When actually as a passenger, one of the things that can be helpful is if you're the front seat passenger and you're constantly talking to the driver, there's that one-sided thing. So it's not that you should never talk to the driver, but counteract it by turning the opposite direction now and then, just so you're not getting that one-sided stress of always turning your head to the side. When standing, go ahead and everyone stand if you would, please. And I'd like to have you observe the difference, what you feel in your lower back if you lock your knees. And then notice what you feel in your lower back if you unlock your knees. And can you feel a difference? You can go ahead and be seated again. And so when I read about this study, I was standing there with my knees locked and realized that, yes, unlocked knees are better, and of course they teach that, I understand they teach that in the military. And I found that it has never become natural. I have to remind myself every single time that I'm standing. And what would you say your experience is? I mean, do you just naturally have your knees unlocked, or do you find that you have to remind yourselves of it?
I find myself staying in one leg, which is not good, I'm sure.
Well, what they say about that is actually, if you're going to be standing for an extended period, it is better to shift your weight from side to side. But I did some experimenting and I found you can still keep your knees unlocked even if you have your weight on just one side. And they say, when they say two-sided activity versus one-sided activity, it doesn't have to be equal, divided between side to side, just as long as you change from time to time so that it's not just constantly one-sided. Looking down, that's a really easy one. Just plain don't do it. So when I'm in a public place and I look around and everyone is like this, I realize chiropractors are going to be busy for a long time.
Yes, yes.
And let's see, who was the person that was pointing out that more people are younger people are developing neck problems because they're constantly
Yep.
looking down. And it's just as easy to be in this position. It's not stressful. It really isn't. If you have your elbows in close, it's not tiring on your arms. But again, it's one of those things that I find that I have to remind myself every single time. I don't do it just naturally. I find myself doing this when I could be doing this. And same with reading. And the reason that looking down is particularly harmful is that the head weighs the weight of a bowling ball, about 12 pounds. And so when we're in the neutral position and looking straight ahead, the bones of the neck support the weight of the head. They're intended to do that, and they do that very easily. When we're in this position, the muscles have to hold up the bowling ball. And muscles aren't intended for constant weight bearing, they're intended for movement. So consequently, if we spend extended periods of time like this, the muscles get overworked, stressed out, tightened up, and they complain. And it's been found that for every half inch forward that the head is forward of the shoulders, it doubles the stress of the muscles that go from the neck to the shoulders. And so there's two things I'm going to ask you to remember from today, and that's one of them. Just plain don't look down. And when you think of it, there's so many things that we do. Working at a counter,
Dishes.
dishes, so many things that we do on a daily basis. So for those things, what I find is useful is I try to use my eyes a lot. That I don't have to necessarily be like this. I can be more like this. I can maybe tuck my chin a little bit and use my eyes. I'm still looking down a little bit, but it's not the same as this. And so do your own experimenting and see what are the ways you can do, what are the things you can do to avoid looking down. If I'm working at a table, sometimes I'll sit and I'll find that I can do what I'm doing without having to look down at least as much as if I were standing. Bending. So that's the second thing of the two things that I hope you can take away today is never, never, never bend forward at the waist. Think of how many things we do in that position. And again, you can, I'm exaggerating a bit, but you can look at me and say, well, that's not a very good position to be in. I'm washing my face. I'm brushing my teeth. I wash my hands between each patient, so I'm frequently washing my hands. Making the bed, clearing the table. So many things that we do involve that slightly bent position. And if you remember what we talked about earlier, the neutral position is the position of strength. So bending is something that we really get drilled on in chiropractic college because we're bending over all day making adjustments. And if we didn't bend correctly, then we'd all have back trouble, and that would not be good advertising. And so the way they teach us to do it in chiropractic college, I'm going to demonstrate, but I'm going to ask each of you to try it, is they want us to think of this as attached to a board, and there can be no movement from here to here, and that the bend comes from the hip. So they say put one foot a little bit ahead of the other, tuck the chin a bit, and then push the hips back so that the shoulders are over the hips. And you know, you could look at me like this and say, well, that's kind of an odd position, but you could probably stay in that position for a long time before you would get fatigued. And you can modify that by bending your knees if you have healthy knees. So I'm going to have each of you stand, if you would please, and pair up, if you would, because it's helpful to have someone give you instructions. Sure, go ahead. So the first person that's going to be bending, let's all face that wall.
Dumb thing.
Oh, you don't want to because you're what?
Yeah, well, I just
Or
want to
the
make sure
person
I'm
that's going to
getting
be bending
here.
face the wall, I should sit down.
One thing,
And
okay,
then-
I'll face the wall then.
And then put one foot just a little bit ahead of the other. And then you tuck your chin in just a little bit. You're not looking down, you're just tucking your chin in a little bit. And feel like this is locked in this position, and then just push your hips back. It feels odd, it feels feels awkward, yeah, that looks good. Mhm. You can
Does
go
feel
a little
weird.
further. There, that's
It's not
perfect.
something I would normally do.
You're in the right position. Now trade places and have the other person do that. So this is only if you're doing something slightly
She said
bent,
facing
like
the wall.
over a counter, over
Just
a
come
sink.
outside.
Yeah,
just
right.
It's not related to
Do it side by side. And then as you go forward, push your hips back. Yeah.
This stays in
Yeah.
place. I tuck my chin a little bit,
I do feel
and then push your hips back.
If you have to go down lower, you
So
can
you
bend
end up
your
with
knees,
your
but that way you're not.
You're going like this, you're going like this, and then you're.
That looks good. That looks good. Okay, you can be seated again. It feels awkward.
It does feel awkward.
It's something we're not used to. And so when they told us about it in chiropractic college, I thought, well, there are so many things that we do on a daily basis that involve that slightly bent position. And so the first thing that I did was to try to identify all the things I did each day that involved that position. And then my next step was to think of, well, how can I improve my body mechanics when I'm doing each of those things? And just washing my hands, I've done an experiment where each time I wash my hands in the office throughout the day, I bend over the sink like this. And at the end of the day, I have quite a bit of fatigue in between my shoulder blades and upper back and neck. But if I bend like this and bend my knees a bit, if I do it this every time, by the end of the day, I have a lot less fatigue and therefore energy left over to do the things that I want to do instead of wasting energy on inefficient body mechanics. Same is true, we're going to combine bending and sitting. And how many people are like this when they're at the computer?
Right.
If you have a desktop or a laptop, we tend to get pulled into what we're doing. And again, remember, every half inch forward, the head is of the shoulders. It doubles the stress of the muscles that go from the neck into the shoulders. And so, in my opinion, the best position for either a laptop or a desktop is standing. And how many of you have standing stations at work? It's becoming much more common these days. All you have to do is ask. I encourage you to try it at home, which I admit I haven't done yet, and that's so uncharacteristic of me. I don't like to tell people to do things that I haven't done yet, so this will be a good incentive for me to do it. At home, just put a box on the desk. If you have a laptop, put the laptop on the box, see how you like it. If you have a desktop, put the keyboard and the mouse on the box, the monitor on another box, and just see how you like it. Everyone I know who has gone to a standing desk at work, or combination sitting standing, none of them has said, I don't like it. Everyone says, well, I thought I would only do it for a little while each day, but it turns out that I do it a lot each day. Now, there are some people for whom standing is not comfortable. That wouldn't be the right recommendation. In that case, probably more being able to have a little variety of position is useful. So that's the third thing I'll encourage you to try when you get home. See if you can make a standing workstation at home and see if you like it. If you don't like it, well, you tried it. So I do encourage people to, one of the positions that's useful if you're sitting at a computer is to slouch back against the back of your chair. Give that a try. If you're slouched back against the back of the chair, it keeps you from going like this. People say it sounds funny to hear a chiropractor say it's good to slouch. But if you're slouched back against the back of the chair is supporting your weight, and that gives your muscles a break, and more importantly, it keeps you from going like this. Another position that can be useful is to be far forward on your chair. Give that a try with one knee down. And you can feel how that keeps this arch in your back, and it also keeps you from going forward like this. It's not comfortable. There was a study done in Scandinavia that found that horseback riding is one of the best positions for the spine. And when you're horseback riding, your knees are down, it keeps this arched and it keeps your spine straight. So that's another option if you're at the computer for a while, to be able to come to the front of your chair and have one knee down and keep the spine straight. Yes?
How would that work with like the ball chairs? Because wouldn't that keep your kind of knees in a downward position? I tried one, I actually ordered one in for work, and it came defective, so I never got to actually use it, but it's been recommended a lot, and just when you saying that, having your knees kind of down, I was curious how that would work with that type of sitting arrangement.
I haven't tried it myself. The people I know who have tried it really like it. And I think one of the benefits is that a lot of chairs, this one not so much, but there's a compression of the tailbone, so then there's a compression of the spine, whereas the ball, you wouldn't have that compression. It keeps the spine more, it's not compressed. So I do recommend the ball because of feedback that I've gotten, and so.
What's the ball chair?
If you,
It's
go ahead.
it's literally like a giant, like a medicine ball. It's like sitting on, I know they actually make office chairs that it's like a ring with wheels on it that one sits in. Some people just sit on one in general. No, I ordered one of these. You know, I got mine on Amazon. It was about this big and it had a ring with wheels, and this one had a back support, but you can remove it. I've heard people have say mixed things about the back support, but basically it keeps it puts the work on your legs, and you don't have anything at your back, but it puts you in exactly that, kind of like this with your knees are down. And I guess people with back problems, I've heard it recommended a lot in offices, but it's pretty much like a medicine ball that you're sitting on.
And also because you make micro movements to keep your balance on the ball,
Right.
it's like you're exercising
Right,
in a nice way all day long.
right.
I think that's a nice side benefit as well.
Yeah, I use the ball all the time. And it does exercise you, because when you're on it for a long time, you start to get tired, but you don't realize you're really exercising. But I also wondered, years ago when we first started with our computers, we had these seats that you actually put you're kneeling on the seat with the bottom shelf, and then you're leaning back against something in the back, and that's how you keep yourself. What do you think of that?
That was an 80s thing.
Yeah, that's old.
I have a chair like that at my X-ray analysis table, and I really like it. My understanding is that it isn't intended for use for a full 8 hours, that they say up to 4 hours a day. So some people like them, some people don't. I like them. I like it because the knees are down. It keeps this part of my spine arched, and it keeps me from going forward. But I wouldn't want to use it for hours and hours at a time. My knees get a little tired, but I like it. You can get them now for under $100, whereas they used to be more expensive.
I think we're hearing variety
Right.
Right.
and balance and
neutral position of the spine. Lifting, we all know we're supposed to bend our knees, we all don't. Why do we not bend our knees? I don't know. It always makes me wonder, why is it we naturally do things in a mechanically inefficient way? Why is it that I want to bend over like this instead of bending down like this? And someone said, well, it's the shortest distance between 2 points. Something that I have found to be sometimes problematic is getting laundry out of the washer and into the dryer. It's a way to subluxate ribs, and subluxated ribs are very painful. And so the combination of lifting, bending, and twisting is not a good combination. So anything that you're going to be lifting, you want to keep it close to you, right in front of you, and you want to move your feet rather than twisting your trunk. So for laundry, what I've found is useful, the wet clothes, even though they've been spun, are kind of heavy, to have one hand on the edge of the washer if it's top loading, and pull it out, and then step in front of the dryer and put it in the dryer instead of lifting, bending, and twisting. It's not common, but sometimes people come in and have a rib subluxation, and we can't figure out what they've been doing, and that might have been the cause. What about sleeping? I get so many questions about what's the best kind of mattress, what's the best kind of pillow? There isn't a standard answer. Everyone is different. You just have to go and lie down on a whole bunch of mattresses and lie there for at least a few minutes. And I don't get positive reports more about one type of mattress than another. You just have to try them out, see what works for you. Everyone is different. The lifespan of a mattress seems to be about 10 years. So if you've had your mattress 10 years or more, it's probably time to go shopping for a different mattress. Even I know some of them have warranties for longer than that. It still seems like 10 years is about the maximum lifespan. What kind of pillow is best? Again, it's very individualized. In my office, I encourage people to bring their pillow or pillows in, and we do actually a testing to see if their pillow is giving them the proper support. In general, I find that people who more often sleep on their back may do better with a pillow that's shaped, so that it supports the arch in the neck. People who are more likely to be more often side sleepers tend to do better with a pillow that is shapeable, so that you can bunch it up, keep it down towards your shoulders, and make up for this space between the neck and shoulder, or between the neck and the mattress. And you might ask someone to take a look at you when you're lying on your pillow. When you're lying on your back, is your head tilted up, or is your head kind of tilted down? You want to keep it in that neutral position. And same thing when you're lying on your side. Your head shouldn't be going downhill or uphill. The pillow should be tucked in by your shoulder so that it keeps your head and neck in alignment with your spine.
I have a question.
Sure.
How about the pillow between the knees when you're on your side?
That's quite an individualized thing. I say it depends on your comfort. If you're more comfortable with a pillow between your knees, it's a good thing. People say it's hard to,
Works for me.
Pardon?
It works for me.
Good, good.
And me too.
You just have to try it and see what your body says about it.
I just wanted to make a suggestion. I've never could sleep without a pillow before, but neck pain has been my worst Lyme issue, and ever since one day I just threw the pillow off the bed, and now I cannot sleep with a pillow. I love sleeping without a pillow. So if anybody else has anything, I typically lay on my back, but I never could stand being without that pillow. It was just habit, but and it makes sense because my back is aligned then.
Yeah,
Comfort is the most important thing. I mean,
Isn't
one,
your neck offers?
It isn't, I don't know.
so some people, especially if they don't have as much curve in their neck, if their neck is straighter, they may feel more comfortable without a pillow.
And I don't
lying on
have a
their
lot
back.
of curve.
Pardon?
I don't have a lot of curve.
And that would make sense that for you it's more comfortable without. I think if you feel worse in the morning than when you went to bed at night, there's something about your sleep system that isn't right. If it's giving you proper support, your mattress and your pillow, generally you should feel better in the morning than when you went to bed at night. So
I use a little bit of a lumbar support
Pardon?
too. I use a little bit of a lumbar support because if I am on my side, my back will sink in right there. It's just kind of how our mattress is too, and I don't have enough weight on my ends to kind of equal, you know what I mean?
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And I find too that over time our needs change.
Mm.
What's just right for us at one time, maybe 10 years later it isn't quite the right thing. So it's another reason to be willing to experiment.
You think that sleep number bed is for real? Adjustable according.
Well, that's what I have, and I use the pillow, and it's at 100%. I don't think that, I think my body type is such where I think it works better for my husband. His weight is like more distributed, I'm too thin for it really to push in at certain points. I literally go like this, I think, in that darn thing, and it's on 100%. I don't love it, but.
I've had one for about 10 years, same thing, but
Same thing.
I have to keep mine at 100%.
Me too,
And I'm a much
keep it at
bigger,
100%.
but I like it, because we can adjust it here and there. We've got the side to side, but it's older, but it's still